Aita, for ending all contact with my biological family after realizing nothing will ever change with them. I am the stepchild in the family. Story 1. Growing up, I, 27-year-old, was the middle child in my family with an older brother and younger sister, and I was very much the black sheep of the family. My brother was the only boy and cherished, and my sister was the favorite of both parents in many ways. Even my brother can acknowledge this, but she's also his favorite, so he never cared. My sister disliked me from the time we were young, and I was always supposed to deal with that in a way that favored her anyway. It was very unhealthy, and not all of my extended family were like that, but the ones who weren't left our lives when I was still young. The rest all saw my sister as an angel, and they felt she deserved the world. She was always the beautiful one, and I was told repeatedly I should wish I was more like my sister. When she struggled in school, I was supposed to help her and be grateful that I was the one who got to do that. And when she got a good grade, it was celebrated, while the fact I always got good grades was ignored. My sister could tell me I looked ugly or hideous in an outfit, and nobody in the family would bat an eyelid. A couple of times I asked why she couldn't be nice, and I was accused of speaking to her in a harsh manner. I was called petty many times for not celebrating my sister's accomplishments the way everyone else did. My sister is not special needs, was not, that I'm aware of, born early or ever so sick they almost lost her. She was just the perfect kid in the eyes of the family, and my brother, being the only boy, got the positive attention for that, so he never felt slighted. I always tried to love my family anyway, but other things happened that made me feel unwanted and unwelcome. Like when I got married, so many complained about my choice of date, choice of venue, choice of dress, and the fact I went shopping with my Emile and 2 Sills, who have been nothing but amazing to me. I did run the date by immediate family and still got complaints about the chosen wedding date. But my final straw came last week, and this is where I need people to tell me if I'm wrong or not. I'm pregnant. We told my ILs early because they're so supportive. I waited for 13 weeks to tell my family, and the reaction I got from my sister was that was so unfair. Why did I deserve to be a mom when she can't have kids? Which I didn't know, and it was so unfair. My parents asked me why I'd do that to my sister, and my brother just rolled his eyes. He doesn't want kids, so if my sister has none, my kids would be the only grandkids my parents get. But apparently having grandkids for me was never going to be a good thing. My sister deserves to give them grandkids instead. My sister told me she hopes I miscarry and that she can have babies instead. And my family acted like that was fine. My husband was so done long before this, but it was the final straw for me because I don't want my children growing up being treated like shit, or for anyone to think my sister should get all my kids. I told my family I was done being mistreated for not being special enough in their eyes, and I was going to enjoy the family who wanted me. My parents figured I'd apologize and be in contact soon after, but I didn't reach out, and now they're DMing me and texting me saying I can't deny them their grandkids and I should be making things up to my sister. Aita? Story 2. Aita, girlfriend sleeping in bed with another guy. Aita, partner sleeping in bed with another guy. So, I'll give some backstory before the actual issue in question. My partner, 30-year-old, and I, 30-year-old, have been together for around 2 years, and we live together. Prior to our relationship, GF was already had her male best friend, hereafter MF, with whom she spent a lot of time, and they would travel to concerts sometimes. They have never been romantic to my knowledge. When our relationship began, I voiced to GF that I thought I should make an effort to get to know MF, and suggested inviting him to our group gatherings and so on. When she discussed it with him, he replied that he wasn't looking for more friends. He refused to attend any events or places with me. GF said MF was just awkward and shy and didn't like socializing. I found this a little odd, because he happily went out with her often when I wasn't around, or visited her at home when I wasn't there, but I didn't make a fuss. When I invited GF to move in with me around a year ago, she was excited to tell MF the news. He reacted strangely and said something along the lines of, "I won't see you much anymore then," and he didn't like coming to what was now our house, even when I wasn't there. I suggested that this was very strange behavior for someone who was supposed to be her best friend, and that I thought it seemed like he may have feelings for her, but she downplayed it again as his awkwardness. I was concerned, but he was her best friend, so again I tried not to make a fuss. He has visited her at our house maybe twice in the last year, once when I was at work and the other, briefly, when I busy working from home in another room, so not involved. They have spent much less time together since the move when compared to before, but it still happens on occasion. Around a year ago, GF and MF went together to a gig away from home, and they shared a room. There was a mix-up with the booking, and instead of the expected twin room, 2 beds, they were given a double room, 1 double bed. There were no alternative rooms available, so they had to sleep in the same bed. Afterwards, we had a discussion about this, and I didn't make a big fuss but voiced that I found that to be a bit uncomfortable and didn't like it. Now on to the issue at hand. GF really likes a band that I do not appreciate. This band are playing in another city, tonight in fact. Months ago, I bought GF 2 tickets to the show as a gift. I knew that I would struggle to get the time off work and that I wouldn't enjoy the show, so I suggested she take someone who would, possibly MF. GF was very excited by this, and booked a hotel room. She told me MF was going, and they would be sharing a room. Again, I found this a little uncomfortable, but I assumed there would be 2 beds, and again I didn't make a fuss, knowing it would be cheaper for them to share the cost. Once she had arrived, I received a photograph from GF of her bag on a double bed. It isn't unusual for us to communicate with photos. I commented that I was surprised a twin room had a double bed. She initially replied that this hotel has 1 double bed and a sofa bed in their twin rooms. However, a few messages later she said that it was in fact a double room and that she and MF had always planned to stay in the same bed as it was the cheapest option. I was, I think understandably, upset by this given that we have talked about it before. I also felt that the initial deflection talking about a double bed and sofa bed was deceitful. There isn't even a sofa bed in the room. GF insists she cannot remember the past conversation and that she was not being deceitful because she didn't say it was a twin room. GF is now angry with me for spoiling her night, and saying that she will never travel with MF again because of the drama. This is despite me not having any issue with her traveling with him, and in fact I had suggested it and paid for the tickets. My only issue was with the sleeping arrangements and deceitful tone, lack of mentioning it to me. I really don't see how I am at fault here. Aita? TLDR, girlfriend sleeping in bed with another guy despite me previously voicing that it makes me uncomfortable, now saying I've ruined her evening by bringing it up. Story 3. ATF for not treating my kids' stepdad as their second dad or encouraging them to. My ex-wife and I share 2 children. Our son is 9 and our daughter is 7. When our daughter was 8 weeks old, my ex told me she was done with our marriage and wanted to divorce. A year later, and before our divorce was finished, she started dating her husband Jeff. I do suspect they were dating before this and that was why she suddenly decided she was finished with our marriage, but I have no proof and I'm not going to start a war over it either. I don't think it would do any good for my kids. I can't say I have ever wanted my kids to call Jeff dad too or to call us both their dads. I have never said anything about this to my kids. I would never stop them if they did call him dad sometimes. From a young age they called him Jeff and say he's their stepdad to others. That has not changed. This has bothered my ex and Jeff over the years. Particularly when my kids get family tree assignments for school or get asked to write about their family. They don't add Jeff to their family tree, and when they talk about him in assignments about family they call him Jeff. They do seem to love Jeff and the relationship is good. Which at least he treats them good and they feel that way. But it's not enough for them, and my ex and Jeff have been telling me I need to start sharing Father's Day with them or giving them the Saturday before to celebrate with Jeff. With Mother's Day, Father's Day, per our parenting plan, my ex gets the kids all Mother's Day weekend and I get them all Father's Day weekend. So Saturday and Sunday. This is something they feel has been unfair to Jeff, and I said my ex should share Mother's Day weekend with him if they feel like this. There is a growing tension between us because they have said I need to start calling Jeff dad to the kids' faces. Like saying you're going to your mom and dad's house or going home to mom and dad. Instead of saying mom and Jeff. They say I should include Jeff in all parenting discussions. I should run things by him and not just my ex. I should call us the parental unit and not just me and my ex. They said I should be encouraging the kids to embrace him fully as the third parent and second dad. And I said no. I told them that won't happen. They told me Jeff has been there since they were very young and he sees them 50% just like me, and I need to accept the kids have 2 dads. I said I accept how the kids feel, but I won't encourage them to feel that way. Jeff told me I was petty and that just because they provide them with a real family unit and I provide them with a single parent household doesn't mean I get to be that way. He also told me he disliked me for putting the kids through that and how he wishes they were his so I would go away. I told him to keep wishing because they're not. My ex told me to think about if I died tomorrow and wouldn't I want them to still have a dad? I asked her if she wanted me to go out and find them a new mom just in case. She got pissed at me for that. They told me I'm not putting the kids first and I'm an AH for not lifting up Jeff as a dad. Aita? Story 4. Aita for refusing to let my neighbor use my driveway after she's been parking in it without asking. So I, 30-year-old, live in a suburban neighborhood with my husband, 32-year-old. We have a double driveway that fits both of our cars comfortably, and we've lived here for about 5 years. Our next-door neighbor, let's call her Linda, moved in a year ago. She's an older woman in her late 50s who seems friendly on the surface but has started to cause some issues. It started a few months ago when I came home and found her car parked in my driveway. At first, I thought it was a mistake, so I knocked on her door to ask her to move it. She apologized, saying she had a guest over, and her driveway was full. I let it slide that time. But then it kept happening. I'd come home to find her car, or sometimes her guests' cars, in my driveway. I told her multiple times that it wasn't okay, but she'd just shrug it off and move the car when I asked, often saying things like, "It's not like you were using it right then." The final straw happened last week. My mother-in-law, the one who isn't exactly my biggest fan, was visiting, and I specifically asked her to park in the driveway so she wouldn't block the street. When we came home from running errands, Linda's car was there again. Mill was already in a bad mood, and she snidely remarked, "Wow, even your neighbors walk all over you. I wonder why." I was furious. I knocked on Linda's door and told her that this was the last time she was parking in my driveway, period. She got defensive, saying I was being unreasonable since she only does it occasionally, and that it's just a driveway, not a sacred space. Since then, she's started giving me the cold shoulder, and I've noticed her glaring at me whenever I'm outside. My husband says I might have gone too far and should have just let it slide, especially since she's older and it's not worth the drama. Even my MIL, shockingly, agreed, saying that I should pick my battles. But I feel like it's my property, and I shouldn't have to keep asking someone not to use it without permission. At the same time, maybe I overreacted by confronting her so harshly. So, Aita for refusing to let my neighbor park in my driveway and possibly escalating things? Story 5. Aita for selling my house to my brother-in-law and not my cousin. My wife, 35-year-old, and I, 37-year-old, recently bought a new home, which meant we needed to sell our current home to fund it. The problem is that my parents want me to sell the house to my cousin, 38-year-old. I want to sell the house to my brother-in-law, $30 million, but this has gotten my family in an uproar. Basically, I bought this house from older cousin, who bought it from my dad, who bought it from his uncle, who bought it from my granddad. All the sales were at below market prices. This house has ping pong around the family and is seen as a starter home for members of the family. I want to sell the house to my brother-in-law. He's good man, recently married his longtime fiancée and is building a home with her and their kids. I don't like my cousin. He's asshole who made my life miserable growing up. He was bully who picked on my friends and I. He got into drugs and made his parents' life a living hell. He was a career criminal who was arrested multiple times but never went to jail due to luck, lack of evidence or leniency from judges. I don't care if he managed to turn his life around, as my family keeps telling me. I'm not doing business with him. My family became hostile when they found out, and after pressure I relented and offered to sell it to him, but at market rate. This made my parents angrier as I got the house at a discount with the expectation that I would sell the house to family member on a discount. I got into argument with my dad. He said I was spitting in the face of the family, ruining a family tradition that has kept them all together, and that I was being an asshole to all of them in order to get revenge on my cousin. I told them that since the house was mine I could sell it to who I wanted, and since they didn't have the discount clause in writing they were out of luck. If they wanted the house they could buy it at market rate, cause the only person I would sell the house to on a discount was my bill. Which I ended up doing, before they could put a bid in. Story 6. Aita for refusing to let my friend move in after she trashed my place the last time. I, 29-year-old, have been friends with this girl since college. She's always been the life of the party, fun to be around, a little chaotic, but generally someone you could count on to make things interesting. Over time though, I started noticing some red flags, especially when it came to how she treated people who helped her out. She's never been great with money. She's constantly switching jobs, always has some story about why she's broke, but somehow never takes responsibility for anything. I've tried to be understanding over the years, even when it got exhausting. About 6 months ago, she got evicted from her apartment. According to her, the landlord was a total jerk, and the whole thing wasn't her fault. Feeling bad, I let her crash at my place for a week while she figured things out. That week turned into 3 weeks. During that time, she completely took over my place. Dishes were everywhere, music was blasting late at night, and her dog, who she didn't even tell me she was bringing, peed on my carpet more than once. Anytime I brought it up she'd laugh and say I was being uptight. Eventually, I couldn't take it anymore. I told her she had to leave, and she acted like I was kicking her out into the streets. Never mind the fact that she had other people she could stay with. She packed up and left, but it was clear she was upset. Fast forward to last week, and she calls me in tears. She said she got kicked out of her new place, again, and begged me to let her move in temporarily. She swore up and down that this time would be different and she'd be more respectful. I thought about it for a second but told her no. I explained how stressful it was the last time and that I couldn't go through it again. That's when she flipped. She called me selfish and accused me of abandoning her in her time of need. She even brought up how she supported me during my breakup a few years ago, which, to be honest, isn't even true. She barely checked in and told me to move on after a week. She stormed off, and now she's been telling our mutual friends how I'm a terrible friend and letting her rot, even though I have a spare room. Some people are saying I should have given her another chance because that's what friends do, but others agree I had to set boundaries. Now I'm wondering if I let my frustration from the past get in the way of doing the right thing. Aita? Story 7. Update. Aita for yelling at a person with special needs at the gym. I, 29-year-old, have been going to the same gym for the past 10 years. There are a number of trainers that appear to work exclusively with people that have special needs, both physically and mentally. They work in one-to-one sessions, trainers showing them how to use each machine safely and putting together an exercise program for them, and they're also often accompanied by a guardian. I want to say straight away that I have zero issues with this at all. I love going to the gym, and it's great to see others enjoying it too. As long as everyone is working out in a safe way, everything is fine. I've seen what I would call a few near misses, with weights being dropped close to others, or machines being used improperly, but I've never seen anyone be seriously hurt. So today I entered the gym and walked past a trainer I hadn't seen before. She was with a guy that I had seen a few times before. I'm not sure what his condition is, so I apologize if any of the following sounds offensive. I don't intend for it to, I'm just explaining what happened. As I walked past, he was loudly counting the number of reps he was doing on the leg press. I continued over to the dumbbells, got set up at a bench, and started my workout. After a couple of sets, the guy came over and stood just next to my bench, about a meter away from me, just staring at me. His trainer was still over at the leg press on her phone. It was a little awkward with him standing there, but he wasn't in my way, so I don't say anything. As soon as I pick up the weight from the bench, he sits down on the bench. As I noticed what he was doing, I just said, "I'm using that bench, mate," but he proceeds to start doing sit-ups and again loudly counts them out. So this guy is lying back on my towel, wallet, and phone. I repeat again, "Mate, I'm using this one," as I put down the weights and try to pull my belongings out from under his sweaty back. I guess hearing the counting, the trainer notices what happened and came over and apologizes. I just give a nod but don't say anything. I wasn't exactly impressed that she wasn't keeping a better eye on him. I moved a few benches over and thought that was the end of it. Next I was on the bench press, so holding a large amount of weight over my chest. The guy comes over again and stands right next to bench in line to my face, right where I need to put the weights back on the rack, just staring down at me. Again, I said calmly, "You need to move, mate, I need to put the weight down." He just stared at me half smiling. I asked him twice more and he just continued staring, not a single sign that he had understood or even heard me. So I called out loudly for help. Luckily the trainer heard, again coming over to apologize and pull him out of the way. I put the weight back, and then said to her that she needs to keep an eye on him, because he's going to end up getting himself seriously hurt. Some time passes without incident. They're on the other side of the gym, and I'm on one of the cable machines doing tricep pushdowns. I get to my last rep of my last set, and just as I push down, 50 kilograms 110 pounds of metal raised in the air, from out of nowhere this guy lets out a huge scream, and lunges at the raised weight stack in front of me. Now this is what went through my head in the moment. I'm on my last rep, so I probably had about 2 seconds that I could hold the weight before my muscles failed and the weight came crashing down. With that weight, there was a good chance that he would be seriously injured, lost, crushed finger, broken hand, arm, etc. I knew that my last attempts of speaking calmly had yielded zero response from him, and I didn't have time to call for his negligent trainer to come and help. I screamed at the top of my lungs, "Get away from it!" The guy jumped back like he'd had the fright of his life. I lowered the weights, and immediately turned around, enraged and looking for the trainer. Well, she was already on the way over, no doubt because she'd heard me yell. "What the hell are you doing? Did you see what he just did?" I ask, as the guy starts loudly crying. She comes over and asks why I would yell at him, since he doesn't know any better. I again asked if she'd seen what happened, and that he was almost seriously hurt. And yeah, he didn't know better, which is exactly why she should have been there to watch him. I guess the guy's guardian, maybe his mother, unsure, had heard everything as well. She came in, and the trainer immediately tells her that I yelled at him for standing too close. I tried explaining that he was almost seriously hurt, and that he wasn't being supervised properly. We went back and forth, but both the trainer and guardian were not satisfied with my explanation, calling me an asshole for raising my voice to him like that. Next thing I know, they've called one of the other trainers from the gym, who told me to leave, and that they'd be suspending my membership, before I was able to explain to him my side of the story. I plan to speak to the manager or another trainer tomorrow, and I'm hoping that it was captured clearly enough on CCTV that I can get my membership back. I know from the title of this post it sounds bad, but with everything else I don't really think I had any other option. Am I the asshole? New update. Thank you everyone for the advice. I'm a stress head, so I was playing the events over and over in my head all last night. Your comments helped keep me calm and feel more positive about the whole thing. So for the update, I went by the gym this morning and asked to speak to a manager about what happened yesterday. They agreed to see me. I explained everything as I had in my post, and asked if they could review the CCTV to see what actually happened, and possibly reinstate my membership. I said that I believe the trainer yesterday had misrepresented what happened, as a lot of you pointed out, to hide the fact that she was not neglecting the guy she was meant to be supervising. Surprisingly, he said that this wasn't the first time they had received complaints about that trainer. He said she'd only been there 2 weeks, and has already had a complaint from both a client and another trainer from the gym. Though, he didn't go into detail about what those complaints were. He said to leave it with him, and he'd get back to me. About an hour ago I got a call from the manager, saying he'd reviewed the footage and it was consistent with my story. The first 2 interactions I had with him, with the dumbbells and on the bench press, were clear in the footage. The third time was apparently obscured by some other equipment, but he said it was enough to see the guy approach me from behind without the trainer, and he was willing to take my word about what happened next. My gym membership had been reinstated, and they've given me the next 2 months free. I think I'll be putting that money I saved towards a nice bottle of whiskey. He also said not to worry about the trainer. She won't be around anymore. So I think it's safe to assume she lost her job. Hopefully this is a wake-up call for her, and she won't be putting anyone else in harm's way in the future. Thank you again all for the support and advice. Story 8. 8th for kicking my fiancé out after joking. He got me pregnant on purpose. I, 23-year-old, made a post a couple days ago on here talking about a joke my fiancé made at Thanksgiving which concerned me. That post got taken down, locked. This is a repost, update. I, 23-year-old, have been with my fiancé, 26-year-old, for 3 years. We met whilst I was on holiday and a few weeks after, he followed me on Instagram and the rest is history. We got engaged last year and a month later found out I was pregnant. We have a beautiful 6-month-old. We hosted Thanksgiving this year and my fiancé was drinking quite heavily, and after dinner me and my mom were talking about the wedding, which my parents are paying for. I overheard my fiancé tell my brother, who was just as drunk as him, that he needed to tie me down and get me pregnant before I realized what a dickhead he was. They laughed it off, but it rubbed me the wrong way because our baby was not planned. I wasn't ready for a child and we were using condoms, but after a few instances where the condom broke I decided it would be safer if I got on birth control. The first month on BC I got pregnant. We were told that could happen and he said he would pull out to be safe, but I still got pregnant. I was scared ASF, but I personally didn't want to get an abortion. I 100% believe in the right to get an abortion, I just didn't want one. And so decided to keep the baby. I work for my dad's company and my fiancé works at a country club. Money wasn't necessarily why I didn't want a baby, I just wanted to do more before I started a family. I spoke to my fiancé about what he said, and at first he said he didn't remember saying it, which was believable because of how drunk he was, but then he said it was just a joke and it was meant as a compliment because I'm so amazing. So I said okay good, because we're getting a prenup. I was just joking, but I was also wanted to see how he reacted, and he was pissed. He said why the fuck would he sign a prenup that we have a baby together, a house together, and that he would not sign one, how we wouldn't need one because we're never separating, and that me mentioning a prenup is insulting and emasculating. I never felt threatened or anything like that, but he did make me uncomfortable and he woke our baby up, so I told him to leave, which he did. The day after I kicked him out he sent me a long apologetic message about how it was out of character of him to get loud, which it was, he's never acted like that before, and I replied, saying I appreciate the apology, but I still just need a day or two to think everything through. The next day he sent a bouquet to the apartment. Sunday he sent me a booking confirmation of a massage he booked for me at the club and offered to come over to watch our son and cook dinner. Tonight he sent me a message saying that I'm being an a-hole and that I'm taking a meaningless joke to heart and that he's wasting money he could be saving for the wedding on the hotel. But now things that went over my head before, I'm starting to think is sus, but breaking up my family over this doesn't seem right. Am I overthinking this, being an a-hole? Update. A lot of people were asking for context. When I said I wanted a prenup at the time, I wasn't being serious. Maybe I was being trying to get a reaction, but based on the 3 years we've been together I would have never imagined he'd react the way he did. Why did the joke bother me so much? About a year ago he lost his job. He was never really clear why, For the next 3/4 of a month he didn't really do much. He said he was trying to figure out what he wanted to do next, and that was the first time he brought up having kids, indicating that he was ready. We had a candid conversation on my part about how I want kids, just not anytime soon. I enjoy my job. I had trips planned and I wanted to be married first. He agreed with me that we should wait 3/4 of a year. My dad's company got a contract at the club, which is how he got his job there. But during the time he was out of work, my girls would joke that he's a stay-at-home boyfriend and that I'm the provider and he'd be a stay-at-home dad because I was paying the bills, rent by myself, which at the time didn't bother me. I used to live there by myself before we got together, so it wasn't a big deal, but I guess it was them that first made me question. TBH, I don't know how long the condoms were breaking. A lot of people are saying they've never had them break, and I can't say I remember it ever happening before. I noticed the first time that it looked like it had split, and then I checked it the next time that was also broken, which is when I decided to get an IUD. Which he didn't want me to, but I stood my ground and we compromised and I got on the pill. I know we should have continued using condoms, but he said he'd ran out and that I'm on the pill and don't need them. In hindsight, yes, I should have insisted we still use them, but I choose not to have that battle. I thought we'd be okay. He knew my opinion on abortion and that I wouldn't get one. If I got pregnant, I would raise the baby unless it was for a medical reason. Money-wise, my family's successful. I work for my dad's company. I have 2 trust funds, one of which I got at 18. Before I fell pregnant, I was making plans to start my own house flipping business, but I decided to put that on hold. I still work from home on flexible hours, but he said once we're married he wants me to stop working so I can focus on our kids and that he'll support us, but I've never really liked that idea, mainly because, although I've never had to worry about money, my parents always taught us the importance of financial stability, and my mom's always said to never be financially dependent on anyone. Plus, my fiance's current salary I'm not sure would cover all of our expenses. The only reason why I haven't told my dad is because they have a good relationship and I don't want to blow everything up over an overreaction on my part. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you enjoyed our videos, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to stay updated with our latest ones. Have a great day.